Okay, welcome. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to our stress and the holiday season workshop number 2. I'm really, really glad that you decided to join me for this next workshop in our series, the series being 4 in length. Um, we'll meet again next Thursday evening, December 19th, and then again on Thursday, January 2nd for workshop number 4. And very, very excited that you are here. Thank you for making the time and for choosing to spend this mid-December evening with me. How is your holiday season going? How is it going? I talk about this being the stress and the holiday season workshop, um, but it's really, I think, more aptly named "How to De-stress" during the holiday season, because for so many, it is a time of not only fun and joy, hopefully fun and joy, but it's also a time of very busy. And it's a time where we're getting together with people more often. Maybe we're doing things, our activities, our calendars are full. We're getting together with people we maybe only see once or twice a year. And all of that can carry this um, extra feeling of stress, of overwhelm, of fatigue. And, for some of us as well, the season is by all accounting, by all marketing, by all that we kind of see and hear about in our culture, is a time of fun and joy. And I just said it as well, but it may not be that experience for you. Maybe the holiday season is one that is always typically hard because of past experiences, or maybe you're missing somebody, or maybe things have changed, and the holiday season is less about fun and joy for you and more about kind of getting through. And so, whatever the situation is for you, I am, like I said, very, very glad that you are here and honored that you're here. Thank you. And so we will start this workshop just as we start pretty much everything else for any of you who've spent some time with me or have come to a class or joined me for Monday midday meditations or done, coaching. For all of my clients, you'll know that we always start by getting settled comfortably. And so whatever it is that you are seated upon, or whatever structure it is that is supporting you tonight, I invite you to get really comfortable in it. Now, that doesn't mean like reclining back, lying back necessarily. That means just finding that place where you can let your body come to a point of ease. And so you may have to shift around a little bit. You may have to really kind of move. You can cross your legs. You can straighten your legs if you're seated with your legs crossed, or if you're maybe seated on the floor or on the bed or on the couch. If you're in a chair, sometimes it's nice to have both feet on the floor. Um, the ideal seated position is in a way that you are able to let your body come to ease or come to a point of being supported by that which is supporting it. So you can think about the chair, the couch, the bed, the floor, whatever surface it is, maybe the seat of your car, whatever surface it is for you. We want to just find some ease and let the body really kind of relax into it. So you can take a couple moments to make all of those adjustments so that your body is feeling supported on that structure. And then we will also kind of attune to not just the structure that is supporting you, but the structure of you. The structure of you. And so as we turn over some of the effort, the holding, to the object that is supporting you, So, too, then, can we find this place where we can settle into being supported by the structure that is within us, the bones, the muscles, the joints? Let them uphold you in the manner that they are designed for. And if you haven't already closed your eyes, it's the perfect time to do so. And from here, just doing a little inventory check, just doing a little um, checking in with yourself. I want you to kind of scan the body. You can start at your toes and work your way up, or you can start at the top of your head and work your way down. But just kind of noticing where or if there are places that you're still holding a little effort. And for each of those places that you find, you can mentally ask them to release, to relax. I'll give you a moment to do that. And then we'll continue to find the breath. I want you to feel the movement of your breath in your body, in that supported body. Feel the movement of the inhale. Feel the movement of the exhale. And as you inhale, you can feel the body expanding and growing as the inhale fills you with all of that wonderful breath, that life force, oxygen, the air. And as you exhale, you can release anything that we don't need. And as you inhale, you can feel all of that beautiful, fresh breath, that air filling your body. And as you exhale, that which you don't require, that which doesn't, you no longer require, can be released. And so a couple breaths just like that, feeling the inhale, feeling the exhale. You might notice that the inhale, you're expanding and maybe even sitting up a little bit taller. And the exhale, there's just this gentle movement, this contraction as the body releases what it doesn't need of that breath. Inhaling and exhaling just like that. Nice, gentle breath. Can you feel the movement of the breath? Can you feel the ebb and the flow? Can you feel in this cycle of respiration the ease of movement? You can contemplate just gently as you notice that feeling, that movement of the breath, the flow of the breath. Or maybe even feeling with that, you can contemplate it or feel it, kind of the movement of the energy that that creates in the body. Sometimes as we take these deeper inhales and exhales, kind of completing that kind of fulsome cycle of respiration, you might start to notice, or again, it might be a matter of contemplating or just being aware of that deeper kind of movement of energy throughout. You might even feel it. Might feel the energy shift, maybe down to your feet, maybe down to your fingertips. And then that movement continues as that you're bringing in all of that fresh air, that oxygen, oxygenating the blood, moving through and cycling the blood from your heart, pumping out through your veins, your arteries, circulating through the body. The flow of the blood, pumping of the heart. And as you bring your awareness to the movement of the breath, provides that gentle kind of movement, that same sort of moving action, even into the thoughts and the mind, creating a somewhat kind of fluid, um, wave like motion to the energy of the thoughts, the inhalation, the exhalation, like the waves in the water, so too mirrored then in the mind. So taking a couple more breaths just like this, connecting with that feeling of the flow, the movement, the motion. And we'll just start to bring that, we'll start to bring it to center. I want you to take a nice big inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth. And again, inhaling through the nose, exhaling through the mouth. And you can do that one more time at your own pace. Okay. And then taking your time, nice and slow. You're welcome to open your eyes again. Just, really taking your time, letting the light in kind of slowly. And as we kind of come back into the moment, taking your time here. Great. So you might be wondering why we started with that little practice. Although, like I said at the beginning, I generally always start with a bit of a meditation, a bit of a practice. It is a great way to connect the body, the mind, the energy, kind of creating this union or yoga um, within us. And that creates then this ideal situation for us to be kind of open and receptive in a relaxed state. And it also, I mean, the other words like to use a lot are that we are breaking the momentum of that which, whatever you were doing before, however the day has progressed for you. And even if you still have things yet to do today, um, we are we create this opportunity to break the momentum of that which you carried into the session. And so when we do that as well, kind of letting go of all of that came before, for the time being, then we create this, again, this nice opportunity for you to be open, to be receptive, to be clearer. And we create this open receptivity and to kind of balance or harmonize the energy so that you are in a state of perhaps being more calm and more at ease. So that's why we start that way. And I usually start things that way. And I'd love to know what you think about it. But I want to start out by just acknowledging that it's wonderful to see so many people back for session two. So Crystal, Megan, Courtney, who else do we have here? I'm looking at the participants. Andrea, Susan, thank you. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful to have you back. And we've got some new people here too. So happy to see. Let's see, we had a Jen last week, but we've got a new Jen here tonight. We've got, who else do we have in the chat? We've got Deb. We've got, yeah, we've got a few new faces. If I haven't said your name yet, I apologize. Things are kind of moving quickly in the chat, in the participation, in the participant list as well. So welcome. Super glad you're here. Super glad you're here. Um, Great. And so the other reason that we did that meditation to start is I thought that it was a great way to kind of enter into this second concept of stress in the holiday season, in particular, de-stressing during the holiday season. And I think the theme of this workshop is going with the flow. That expression, going with the flow. And I think that often it feels like that is so easier said than done, especially when you're in the mucky middle of things, eh? When things get busy, when things are hurried, when you've got a house full of people, you're rushing out the door to somebody else's house full of people, or the holiday party, or the time in the office. Who can relate to kind of that momentum of the holiday season, and how going with the flow may feel counterintuitive or an idealistic or aspirational state. Anybody relate to that? Yep. Okay. Yeah. I'm seeing lots of yeses. Oh, Deb. Yep. I can say yes. In fact, you mentioning a situation you had just today, right? With the holiday luncheon. Oh my gosh. Wow, you've had a full day already. A holiday lunch in the office. Yeah. I can it's almost like there's like something to do every week around holidays in the office, eh? Good, Carrie. Yeah, yes, Andrea, yes, Susan, yes. Okay. So going with the flow can feel aspirational, can feel like a state of almost like a longing, right? To just feel to kind of be easy and to go with the flow when things are so jam-packed. How on earth do we go with the flow? So I want to connect you back. And if we contemplate that, kind of going back to that sensation, that feeling of movement in the breath. And as we think about that, kind of making this kind of connection here between why we might want to find ways to go with the flow during the holidays. Any thoughts on that? Yeah, it would make things easier. Things would feel less tense. Yeah, thanks, Andrea. Oh, that's a good one too. You'd feel like you'd be a little bit easier as the kind of emotions can be heightened during the season. Yeah, Anna, that's a great one, right? Being with so many people, kind of on all the time, the social kind of um, expectation can feel very contrived, can feel very like you're on all the time. It's harder to go on the flow when you don't feel like you're in your natural state. Really, really good example. Thank you for sharing that and for your honesty there, Anna. Absolutely, that's a tricky one. Yeah, so going with the flow. Um, if I were to say to you, or if I was to just kind of put out a post and say, hey, here's my top tip for the holidays, man, go with the flow, right? Um, you might even stop listening. But so often we hear these types of things during the holiday season, or even just during any of these kind of stressful scenarios that come up from time to time. Go with the flow, set better boundaries, make time for self-care, connect with yourself. Don't forget to, get a good night's sleep, like all of these things, which are all in of themselves aspirational. But the sense of kind of going with the flow and riding the waves of the holiday season um, is really, really difficult, can feel really, really difficult. So I totally get it. And that's why I want to talk about it tonight, because I think that, um, going with the flow when you're in the middle of a tense family situation, or when you've got expectations perhaps that are um, kind of falling through or not being met, right? Sometimes we get let down by how people are acting or reacting, or doing or not doing. All of these things can make us feel like we're not able to go with the flow. What other examples of not going with the flow can you think of, or things that stop you from going with the flow? Oh, I guess we covered a lot. Okay, so let me just we'll move on from here. But I wanted to give you some other examples of where I think sometimes we get blocked from flow. So I'm going to relate it back to kind of this experience that we had of the breath. So one kind of obvious example that might come to mind when you're thinking about the breath and the movement of flow is if you're holding your breath, right? Holding your breath is a form of blocking flow. And you might have noticed if you joined me last week for the pause meditation, or where I talked about the power of the pause, and we went through the practice of the pause meditation. And don't worry if you weren't here last week. The replay is in the Busy Women Breaking the Stress Cycle Facebook group. So you can always pop in and listen to it. Or if you've already received the pause meditation from me in the Pause to Prosper guide, then you know what I'm talking about. But I'll pop the link to both the recording and the Pause to Prosper guide in the notes on this session as well, so that you've got them. So don't worry about that for right now. But just very quickly, I'll mention that we part of the process of the pause meditation is finding that pause where we hold the inhale and hold the exhale, and we stop that flow. And what happens when you stop that flow is you can feel the impulse to move forward, right? Feel the impulse to move forward at the bottom or at the top of the inhale when you are feeling kind of that impulse to exhale, and at the bottom of the exhale when you're feeling that impulse to start to inhale, because naturally the flow wants to be established. It's natural state, movement, and flow. So you could feel that tonight in the breath work that we were doing, that feeling, that connection of the movement of the breath, the inhale, the exhale, kind of the riding the waves of the breath. And I talked in that as well about maybe the movement of energy that you could feel in it, the movement of the blood, which you probably, can't feel, but we know to be true. And the oxygenation of the blood carries that flow of the blood deeper into the body and supports our vitality at a different level. And so by holding the breath, right, we stop the flow. And that has impact. That has impact. We have to we've stopped the flow for too long. We cease to be alive. So during the holiday season, if you feel like you're getting stressed or if you feel like you are, um, engaged in activity, you might notice even those little places where you are holding your breath. Sometimes when we get busy or when things are quick, we end up kind of holding our breath, and you might not even notice that you're doing it. But at the end of the day or at the end of the event, you might feel just that little bit of breathlessness. So a simple and quick antidote for that is every once in a while, right? Connecting with the breath every hour or so, every few minutes or so as you need, right? You can create that flow rather than in the situation where, you might be overscheduled, you might be busy, there might be a lot going on, you might have a jam-packed house. Can you take a few breaths and feel the flow? So let's talk about some situations where you might give that a try. Where are times when you can just very simply connect with your breath? Yep. Megan? Yeah, absolutely. Anytime. That's a great answer. Anytime, yes, 100%. We are just as surely, um, as anything, we're going to take that next breath. We are always breathing. This is how we know we are alive, right? Whether you're conscious of it or not, you are breathing if you are alive. And so just bringing your mind to your breath, right? If you feel like this situation is becoming a little bit heightened, or if you feel like you are, um, uh, over busy, overstimulated, you start to feel kind of those ways that you wish you could go with the flow. You could just, all you need to do is remember that you can and take a breath. So, yes, anytime. Excellent. So, what might be some other examples where we get blocked in flow? What are some of the other ways besides holding our breath that we block flow? This is a thinker, eh? Yeah, a busy schedule, right? There's no space around the the things on your calendar. Yeah, very good, Susan. I agree. There's no space around things, right? You can't flow around things. If you think about the rocks that you might see in the water and the stream, right? The water flows around them, but if they're packed too tightly together, what do you end up with? A dam, right? There's no flow through a dam. So great, great example. Yeah. So in our schedule, you make a note. That's a great example. What about, can you think about how you might block flow if in um, something to do with the seasons or the season that we are in? If we're too cold, we block flow. You think about when you're cold and shivering and bundled up, right? Hugging yourself tight. What happens when we are cold? What happens in the body physiologically? We contract, we tighten, we restrict. So in a season, now I'm in southwestern Ontario. Today was a pretty cold day. So we have these changes in temperature, and in particular right now, right? We've got where I live anyway. And we've got this coldness that happens. And so if we are cold and we don't kind of take care to keep our body warm or warm enough, that can also block flow physiologically. Absolutely. You can think about the difference between even an ice cube, right, and a puddle of water. When ice is solid, or when some water in solid form, it does not flow. Water in a liquid form does at the right temperature. So yeah, so when we're cold. What about these other kind of physiological things or other biological things? Can you think of how the way that we eat might block flow? Another goodie during the holiday season. Get it? Goodie. Yeah. Crystal says, yeah, eating too fast. Yes, eating too fast. Why does that block our flow, Crystal? Yeah. Well, yeah, that's right. It could be that we're not kind of breaking down the food properly, right? It creates kind of blocks, so we're extra work for the digestive system. Really good example. Yeah. So eating too fast, eating very heavy foods. It's a time of year where the quality of our food changes from kind of a lighter fare in the summer months to the heavier foods. And in the pun I used of goodies, right? There's extra treats, extra sweets, extra that we partake in this time of year. And that changes flow. It makes us heavy. It bogs down the digestive system and can restrict flow. Yeah. Any other ways that we block flow? How about on the thoughts? What are your thoughts on how flow becomes blocked in our thoughts, in our mental or emotional mind? That's a thinker, huh? You know that the term getting stuck on an idea or being stuck on a thought, when you can't kind of let go of something. What happens to what happens kind of to the mental and emotional flow in those situations? You can become fixated on an idea, or when an emotion comes up or something comes up that you just can't let go of, become blocked. We stop the flow. Yes. So in all of these ways, right, all these examples, there is, and I shouldn't even use the term that we do it, right? Like, or say that, how else do you? It's not even something that you're necessarily conscious of doing. It arises in situations, right? These are some of the ways in which flow gets blocked or flow becomes disrupted. Not even necessarily blocked. It may not be like the big dam, but flow becomes disruptive, or disrupted, like the calendar example that Susan gave. If you've got kind of too much in your schedule, it's not a lot of movement, it may not be jam packed. There may be slight kind of space in between things, but it is constricted, restricted. Yeah. So there's lots of different ways that flow can become disrupted. And, that was at the beginning of the call, we talked about, even just the nature of the holiday season can do that. And so when flow is disrupted, if you think about this like the water analogy, right? We've got rocks in the water, and when there's space around them, the water can move freely. What do you think happens, or what do you think? How would the quality of that movement um, be? Is it easy or is it stressed? Easy. Yep. The water moves with ease, right? Easy. There's lots of flow for it to get around. It's not kind of bumping into the rocks. It's not having to splash over the rocks. It's not having to do a lot of work to kind of move around it. So it's easy. Exactly. And then you can imagine kind of with each rock piling on, then the quality of that flow changes. It becomes harder to navigate. The water has to get creative and look through and try to work through the cracks or go over the top of the rocks. It takes more effort to kind of get around it. And eventually you place these blocks or these rocks into that stream. And at a certain point, the water can't get through anymore. And we blocked the flow. And the water on one side is like, I want to get through. I want to get through. And it's pushing, it's pushing, it's pushing, it's pushing, it's pushing. Right. And this is kind of the work, the effort, the stress, the overwork. Right. And that water splashing up and it's churning and it's becoming angry and it's becoming, um, the uh, tormented, right? I can just kind of have this vision of this water splashing up and banging against those rocks, trying to move the boulders to no avail. The water is frustrated. The water is aggravated. Can you see it? Yeah. Oh, I know, Deb. Yeah. Angry water. Yeah, I know. It's a funny way to put it. But I think this analogy still holds, right? So when you've got flow, everything's easy, it's calm, the water knows where it's going to go, it's got clarity, there's nothing kind of blocking it. Everything's in a happy dynamic, happy situation. The rocks pile on, and all of a sudden it gets harder and harder for that water to move and to do its thing, and flow is restricted. Then all of a sudden, the quality, the dynamic, the nature of that stream changes, right? Everything has to change around it. It no longer has the flow, so things on the other side of those rocks aren't getting the nutrients it needs. So the whole ecosystem changes. And I could go on with this analogy for a long time, but I think that you are maybe seeing as well. So if your flow is blocked, right? If your flow is blocked and it is blocked to the point that nothing's getting through, right? And maybe it's not actual literal rocks that are blocking your flow, but maybe it's the busy calendar. And then maybe you add into that the different types of eating. And then you add into that, oh my goodness, this person's driving you crazy and you feel like you're holding your breath all the time. And then you add into that it's cold and oh my gosh, I just can't get warm. And all of a sudden, right, you've built all of these this situation where there's all of this extra rock in your stream, and the flow is just angry on the other side and trying to get through to no avail, right? And so in this manner, stopping the flow or blocking the flow, or less than ideal flow even, can create this critical mass of stress. Okay, so does that sound like anybody? Are you with me so far? Yeah. Anna? Yes. Courtney. Okay. Seeing a lot of yeses. Andrea, Jen, Claire, Deb. Okay. All right. Good. Rebecca. Yes. All right. So I've taken this analogy then down a good path. You can see kind of where we're going, and how what now that we understand what flow is, some of the ways that it can be blocked and why that might be a problem, or why that contributes to stress during the holiday season. So what to do about that? what to do. So the great news is I've already given you a very practical tool, and I've got more to share. So what was the first practical tool I gave you tonight? Anybody recall? I've said it a couple times. Susan, yes, the breath. Yes, perfect. The breath. Oh, I see more breath. Perfect. Coming through. Great. Thank you for contributing and thank you for sharing in the chat, guys. You guys are awesome. I really appreciate all of the communication and dialogue. It makes this a whole lot more fun for me. Yes, the breath. Perfect. The breath. The breath moves, the breath flows, and it is also this really great example to trigger that that reminder for you and can trigger the feeling of it. So at the beginning, remember the beginning of the call when we were practicing it, and I was asking, can you feel it? Can you feel the flow of energy? How does it feel in the mind? Right? Can you imagine the flow of the blood? All from that, um, all from that practice of the breath. Isn't that amazing? And like I shared earlier, you can access at any point at any time. There is, we have to breathe to survive. So you can do this anytime, anywhere. In fact, you're doing it now, right? So every once in a while, right? You could feel kind of that, that feeling that, it might feel like I described with, the rocks in the stream and the water pounding against those rocks, trying to break through. When you can feel that, and I think you know what I mean, in your body. You can feel it in your mind. You can feel it in your breath. Come back to your breath. And just as easy as remembering that little breath work exercise that we did at the beginning, right? You can create a little bit more flow. And the beautiful thing about that breath practice is that it does not require anybody else around you to do anything different. And isn't that one of the hardest parts of the holiday season? Just getting everybody coordinated. And if you've got expectations about who's doing what and when, how they're doing it, how they're behaving, how they're reacting, how they're engaging, expectations about, how things should go, which often comes up during the holidays, right? We don't need everybody else to do something different for you to kind of come back to your breath. It is within you to change, to connect with anytime, all the time. And the more you practice it, right, the more you remember. So that is, I think, the most profound practice I have to share with you tonight. But if you want some more, the ways that we can support the flow, and it's not even to reestablish flow necessarily, but these practices, we can support the flow. We can catch it before it gets blocked or feels like it's blocked. So by practicing the breath time and time again, or just coming back to it a few times a day, even just, 10 breaths mindfully can keep things flowing. The other examples we talked about tonight, we talked about how you eat. We had that example shared. And Crystal talked about the way in which you eat. So we can, Crystal talked about, maybe not chewing your food enough, while gulping it down in a hurry, or, whether you're doing things, or even, sometimes we talk while we're eating. And at family get together, we can talk a lot while we're eating. So just, slowing down a little bit with the intake, so that you're chewing your food, that you're taking a breath while you're eating, that you are adding some mindfulness to how you're eating, the way that you eat can make a big difference, can keep the digestive system running a little bit more effectively, that flow in your digestion. So that's a great tip. And you can even balance. We talked about the heaviness of food, balancing how you're eating. If you know that you're having a big meal or you're going to some place where there's lots of treats, and I'm not saying not partake in enjoying all of the goodies that come with the holiday season, but you can inject a little bit of balance into it. So if you know that you're going, someplace tomorrow, a little bit lighter on the intake or the qualities of food that you eat today, or if you're going out for dinner, having a lighter lunch, those types of things can help keep the digestion moving with more flow. Um, I talked about being cold and how that constricts. So keeping good flow is, what are the ways that we prevent water from turning into ice? And we don't put it in the freezer, right? Or you keep it in something that is um, more room temperature. We boil it. We turn the hot water on, right? So in those ways, we can keep the body warm, right? We can keep the body warm. We wear our mitts and coats and hats and scarves and boots and all of the things that keep us protected from the elements. You can take a warm bath, a longer shower. Keeping the body at an ideal temperature keeps things in flow. And then I would add to that some gentle movement is also a great way to keep things in flow. It is good for the body. It aids in digestion. It helps to keep things warm, and it just lubricates the joints, gets the muscles moving, increases the flow of the circulatory system. So another super way to keep things in flow. And then my last tip around things to do to keep things in flow is around the pause breath and the pause meditation that I taught you last week. And like I said, it's the recording of last week's session is in the Busy Women Breaking the Stress Cycle Facebook group, and also available in the Pause to Prosper guide. And I'll put the links in with the recording so that you've got access to it, of the recording of this workshop. Because the only other place that we haven't talked about kind of the movement or the flow is in the mind and the emotions. And so the pause meditation offers a very simple and effective way to regulate and harmonize the mind, the emotions, the mental activity by connecting with the movement of the pause. And in all of these ways, we are helping to release what might be stuck, to reset the flow within. We're harmonizing body, harmonizing energy, harmonizing the mind and the emotions, so that you can have a holiday season of greater calm and ease and joy. How does that sound? Awesome. And after hearing that, I'll just recap. So we have talked about the ways that flow. Sorry, I'll go back to the top. We talked about the importance of flow, right? How flow keeps things moving, how it keeps things easy and calm, how it is required to sustain our life force, and how it is key to our vitality. We talked about the ways in which flow can become blocked, and blocked really at any time. But in particular, we talked about the ways that flow gets blocked uniquely during the holiday season. We talked about some of the ways that we can ensure good flow and reduce blockages through some really great examples, such as the breath that we did at the top of the class. We talked about how we eat. We talked about how to prevent being cold, and we talked about gentle movement. And then we talked about the pause meditation. It's a great way to harmonize and calm um, and release blockages in the mind and the emotions. And so, like I said, so glad that you joined for this class tonight. I'm always happy to continue the dialogue. So, like I said, the recording of this class will be hosted with the other ones in the Busy Women Breaking the Stress Cycle Facebook group, and I've got everything kind of under guides so that you can access them quickly and kind of keep track of where you're at. And it's a great place for me to um, create all of the links for all the other resources that I've talked about tonight. So they will all be there. We have 2 workshops left. We have next week, which is December 19th, and during which time we're going to talk more about how to connect with the very particular time of year happening right around that time, which is the winter solstice, and how that connection that and aligning with the nature and the natural cycle inherent in the solstice helps to create calm and ease and less stress. And January 2nd is our last workshop where we're going to talk uniquely about resolutions and how to create a 2025 built on a foundation of stress less living. And so if that all sounds great to you, I'm looking forward to seeing you there. And like I said, I'm always open to questions and feedback. So you can, once that this is in the Facebook group, you can always pop in there with comments, and you can always kind of continue the conversation, even together, right? You can add your comments. Now you guys, a few of you have spent a couple weeks together now, right? You can connect there and continue the conversation and share examples amongst yourselves. I'd love to see that type of dialogue in the Facebook group. This is the way that we build community and of people kind of in the same pursuits, like-minded community that we call it, right? This is where we support each other and understand that, in this stress, anxiety, overwhelm, that overwork and burnout that may have brought you here, you are not alone, right? Look at all the people on the call tonight. And in that Facebook community, you're going to find lots of other like-minded folk. And I would say to that, um, going deeper and feeling that sense of kind of connection and in the spirit of not being alone. These are all the types of things that we cover and more in the Stressless Solution program. And in that program, we take you from kind of identifying stress, in particular, what's going on for you and your unique needs and your point in your stress cycle. What are the unique compositions of your stress stack? And those are as different for individuals as our fingerprints. No 2 stress stacks are alike, is what I like to say. And I'd love to talk about that too. So you can always pop in with questions about that. But we need to know kind of what our stresses are and what our unique stress stack looks like before we can release. And so through the program, I take you through practices to help you release and kind of unwind or break down that stress stack, kind of dismantle that stress stack. So that then, as we start to rebuild on that foundation of less stress, that you can do so in a manner that continues to support the stressless living concept that I will teach you. And then, of course, you get to then move forward on this great basis and foundation so that when you next then um, take your next steps, it is with that clarity that you need to um, to have truly transformed your relationship with stress. And I always like to say, we can't avoid stress. Stress is part of living, and stress is very natural. And stress is, in fact, in lots of ways, good. Stress is not the problem; it's the stress stack that is quite typically the problem. So when we transform our relationship with stress, then we no longer need to kind of pile up stress management tactics and techniques, that we can kind of move forward in this realm and in this way of stress less living. And so the Stress Less Solution is a program that can walk you through step by step that transformation for you. And if you would like more information about that, or if you just even want to kind of understand your own stress stack a little bit better, I invite you to book a call with me, and we can talk about what that is for you. I call it the stress cycle consultation. And through that, I promise that you'll have a little bit more clarity, a little better insight into your unique situation, and some great practical tools to move forward. Okay. So with that, what I would like you to practice tonight, or for the next week, it's very simple. I offered you 4 or 5 tactics to keep you in flow this holiday season. They will be outlined again in the notes that accompany the recording. And very simply, even if you want to just connect back with the breath and let that be your practice for the week, but any of the 5 or all 5, I would love to know how that goes for you over the next week. And you can share your comments in the Facebook group, and certainly when we get back together next time. And with that, we're going to conclude until next week. I want to once again thank you so much for joining me here. This is a super fun way to spend my Thursday evening. I hope it's been helpful and good for you too. Has it been a good discussion? Yeah, are you finding benefit here, Courtney? Yes, thank you, Anna. Oh, that's so sweet. I'm glad that you're finding these are just what you need this time of year. Thank you, Andrea. Yes, yes. Susan, oh, yeah, good. I'm glad it's helpful. Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you. And I look forward to seeing you again, seeing your bright faces and seeing some new faces, and we will continue the conversation. Until next week, thank you. Namaste.